We're live again. As you guys can see, I'm no longer in a motel room. Last two podcasts were in a motel room. I'm in my studio, wearing my shirt that Paul and Jason will soon be wearing as soon as I get addresses from them.
Uh-huh.
Alrighty, guys, let's get started with business first. If you're on and you're watching right now, hit that like button. If you haven't already subscribed, subscribe. Let's subscribe on that. You can leave a comment during the show, or you can leave a comment after the show. Either way, you get responded to. It's a fun, interactive show. I don't know how fun tonight's episode will be, but we're going to go through with it anyway. And other than that, share it with your friends. And who cares? I think your Michigan State friends will get a kick out of it. Share it with your Michigan State friends today. You know, they're all jumping and hooting and hollering, and so. All right, Paul. Man, I don't know what to say except we need to put out an APB on the defense not showing up for at Michigan State. Somehow they missed the plane. It didn't get there. I don't know if I've seen a bunch of worse tackling out of this team. I don't know if this defense has ever played. When the last time a defense for Iowa Hawkeyes played this poorly, they didn't. Michigan State had 11 punts and 11 possessions and didn't punt the ball once. And I believe they had a miss. No, they never. Yeah, they had one missed field goal and one interception by us. Were the only two drives that didn't end with a score.
Yep. 9 scoring possessions last
Yeah,
night.
yeah. Is that crazy or what? I mean, honestly, I just don't know why we weren't prepared for this. You know, people who read my thing on Facebook today, I've taken some criticism, I've taken some yahoos and likes and everything, and a lot of people didn't understand that I was being sarcastic when I said fire Phil, fire Kirk, fire.
Making fun of the fire everybody crowd. Absolutely.
Right. So a couple of people picked up on it, a couple of people did not, and I took some heat for that. But where was I going with this? But, I don't know where I was going with it. But let's just suffice to say that we found some offense in the second half. And I know that Kirk Ferentz does not call plays, people. He doesn't physically call plays. I know that. Paul obviously knows that. I'm pretty sure Jason knows that too. However, he does put his stamp of approval on plays. As Lester has already said in an interview this year that he had a couple plays that he wanted to run, but he was overruled by the committee, which I assume it's everybody wearing a headset that day, including Kirk. The committee could be Kirk alone. Okay, so we do know that Kirk has a say-so on some of this stuff. And it appeared to me that the first half, the offense, the way we were running it, looked more like a Kirk Ferentz thumb on the offense telling him, don't go crazy. Let's just see what we can do first. And then we come out the second half, and honestly, our first three possessions could have been all scores except, on the third possession, we gave the ball up via an interception. And then we could have had another. I think we had another score, and then we could have had potentially another one later in the game. But our guy stepped out of bounds and then came back in and took the ball. Okay. I'm not sure what to say about TJ Hall at this point. He got burned a few times last night, at least twice that I can remember of. I just think we just need to hand him his walking papers and pull his scholarship and say, I'm sorry, TJ, it's not working out. This is your third year, and you still ain't getting it. You're doing something wrong. You're giving away something. You're doing something. You're not focused on the ball. You're not focused at all. And we got to get down to 105 players anyway. We might be sending him out with walking papers this year. Other than that, we lost Cone Ettinger. That didn't help. But we didn't lose him, I think, until the third quarter. And by the way, we were, it was a better third and fourth quarter. We scored 3 touchdowns, but they only scored 12 points against us in the first half, and they scored 20 in the second half on us. So basically, it was dead even, 20-20 in the second half. If we could have done that in the first half, we'd have had a chance to win. I didn't appreciate the fact that every time we closed the gap, they would score again to widen that gap. And so, and I know Paul said once, goes, well, it's 8 points. We can do this. Before it was 8, it was 12 then. Yeah. All right. Paul, where are you at on this? Okay. On everything.
Well, I think you just, put a nice recap to the game that was. I just want to say last night was, and not last night, the last few years have been really unfair to the defense, right? Mm-hmm. We've put so much on them that the one night where they didn't have their A game, the offense decided not to show up for the first half. Mm-hmm. And we've sat here and done these pods this year talking about the halftime adjustments, and it's obvious we did some different things in it coming out of halftime, and they were obviously effective, right? And yes. So my thing is, why do we need to wait until halftime to start making some of these adjustments? Mm-hmm. And I will say this: losing to Michigan State. First of all, I think their record might have been a little under what they really are. Their last 2 games were Ohio State and Oregon. Mm-hmm. There's not a whole lot of teams in the country that wouldn't have a similar record to Michigan State's if they had Michigan State's opponent.
And don't forget Boston College, who's playing pretty decent ball themselves right now.
Right. Yeah, they're a pretty good team. So, I think we kind of as a fan base got it in our head that Michigan, you look at their 3-3 record, they're not all that great. They turn the football over, the things that we kind of talked about on the preview pod. And, and then we were, basically a touchdown favorite at night, their homecoming. I mean, that was a recipe for disaster, right? Mm-hmm. And if we go back to the first, it was a bad first half, offensively and defensively. But we were inches and one play away from this game actually going to script. So we did get the interception. Schulte dropped one that hit him between the 3 and the 0. Mm-hmm. And on at least 2 occasions, Region was a shoelace tackle away from taking one back to the house. And it was to the point where in the second half, they wouldn't kick to him. Mm-hmm. Right? So I know ifs and buts can't eat nuts. I totally get that. But Schulte comes up with that pick. Region gets one of those kick returns to go back. We're probably talking about huge momentum swing. They have 2 first quarter turnovers. That doubt is entering into their minds. Here we go again, turning the football over. Instead, what happened? They were able to take the opportunity that we weren't able to take advantage of with the Schulte drop pick. They converted into a field goal, but they get points. Meanwhile, we weren't able to turn their turnover into points, right? And mm-hmm. So it was just, but it was close. Like granted, yes, they scored on 9 possessions, but if a thing here or there had gone a little bit differently early in the game, in that first half, we may have been talking about a different game, regardless of the fact that they were kind of going through us like a hot knife through butter at times.
Is it? Do you guys think it has anything to do with Castro being out of the game and then not being able to find anybody who could take his spot out there, especially after Cone Ettinger went out of the game?
Well, and that's exactly that too, right? I mean, the one thing Iowa does not have is a 2 or 3 deep of 4 and 5 star players, right? And so when you lose a guy who is a legit NFL prospect, I mean, he's going to be in one of the 32 NFL cities this time next year. He will be.
Mm-hmm.
He goes down, and Iowa wants to play next man up. But what did we try first? Fisher. By the way, Fisher didn't have a bad game. I thought he tackled better than most out there. He was pretty solid. But he is what he is. He is limited athletically compared to Castro. And so, I mean, he was put in a rough spot. Michigan State had a good game plan. They executed well. Their offensive line blew our defensive line off the ball way too many times. And then, when we had the football, I mean, it was even the TV guys are saying, look, they've got 22 eyes on KJ. They were not going to let him get loose. And we just kept saying, well, we're just going to run right into the teeth of that. And then throw the football on 3rd and long. And that's a recipe for disaster for this program.
Correct. Okay. Jason, welcome. Looking forward to your analysis tonight. We just each kind of gave our quick synopsis of how we felt about how the game. I didn't know if you wanted to chime in and tell us what your quick synopsis of the game was.
I'm just changing out my gauze as we speak.
What'd you do?
I had surgery on my hand. Just another surgery.
Oh,
no big deal.
Most recently?
Yeah, just 2 weeks ago, Tuesday. This Tuesday will be 2 weeks.
Oh, okay. All right. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing 2 weeks ago, Tuesday, we canceled the midweek show.
Well, no, it was one of those in-house surgery. Like all they had to do was numb up my hand, which felt really weird. And then they just had to cut whatever. Apparently our hands and toes and stuff, we have not ligaments, whatever they're called that we don't really need. So like my finger would lock. So they had to go in and cut whatever would lock my fingers to make it loose again. Like there's stuff in your body that you don't really need. So when it goes bad and you can't use a finger, they can just go in and
take it out.
I don't know what it is. I'm not a doctor. They went in and they clipped whatever was making my finger lock up. So It was pretty quick. But I mean, as you can see, I'm late. I was at the racetrack all day. My son was here, so I didn't want to do a podcast. Apparently, I didn't even. No, I didn't even. I completely forgot about it. When you called, my son actually had. Well, my phone was beside my son, my oldest boy, and he was like, "Dean's calling," and I'm like, "Well, what time is it?" And he told me. I'm like, "Crap!" So and he was. So here I am.
We need you on this show, Jason. This isn't a good show without you. No offense to me and Paul, but you're the analytic guy.
You don't need me this week. We all saw what we saw. The defense, I mean, I thought for sure Parker, because we're used to it, right? Parker could fix some issues. I don't think what we're seeing is not fixable. Hall loses all fundamentals when he's on the field.
Right.
And Nestor loses all fundamentals. Like if you saw me live, I was freaking out by Nestor playing what's his name? Marsh. Playing March like opposite. Marsh was here, right? And Nestor was facing outside, trying to cover him when he was running his route inside. So then when Nestor turned around, the outside was, I mean, it was the weird, what we were doing was so weird. And it's only on the right side. So it's that individual player, right? When you watch Harris, it's not, he does it right. So that's not what's being taught, first of all, because we've never seen it before. I mean, they could still win out. There's nothing. I mean, we saw what Nebraska was. If you're looking at Iowa's schedule, the only game that if they play Iowa football would be Wisconsin's getting better. They're not running the air raid anymore. They're running Wisconsin football. They're playing Wisconsin football now. Their head coach adjusted into, instead of doing it my way and losing, they're going back to power. So they're going to be a problem. But I don't know I don't want to see Cade anymore. Like, it is what it is with Cade. He gets them in and out of the huddle. If they're winning, I still want to see Cade, right? Because he does run the offense very well. He knows what he's doing. They get in and out of the huddle quickly. But good God almighty, I was begging for a bootleg. Anybody who was on the show know. I was begging for a bootleg all night.
You got the bootleg.
Right.
We got the bootleg. It was wide open, and Cade throws it behind him.
I know.
And there was nobody in his face. It was like, what the hell? Like, what? I mean, there's some plays that, and he was using the laces last night. Did you guys notice that?
I didn't.
I didn't pay attention because my eyes aren't that good.
No, I watched quarterback. That tells you right there how often I watch quarterback. He was actually using the laces. So I know that had to been, he's been told to use the laces, right? Mm-hmm. But it didn't matter. It didn't matter. He was so inaccurate most of the night. So it's not like we have receivers dropping passes, right? In the past, we would talk about wide open receivers getting missed, and then when the quarterback would hit the receivers, they would drop it.
Right.
Right now, they're not being dropped a whole lot. We did have some dropsies in the beginning of the year, but like last night, the receivers actually played very well. Vanderzee, is that how you pronounce his name?
Yeah.
He was running away from his guy. I didn't realize he was that fast. Mm-hmm. We had another person come on the show who's never been on, called Hawkeye 5 or something. And he was telling me how fast he was. And I'm like, I don't think he's that fast. He was comparing him to Andy Brodell.
Yeah, I remember that. I read that comments.
And I was like, no, Andy Brodell was a speedster. I don't think but Vanderzee last night looked like he did have some straight line speed. He learned how to not be pressed. Remember at the beginning of the year, he was really struggling with teams that pressed. Last night, they tried pressing him, and they ran a fade. Another thing I've been begging for in the red zone, if you man up a 6'5" receiver with a 5'10" corner, just throw it up and see what happens.
Right. Sometimes
in the red zone, you play man foot or you play basketball, right? You throw it up, the tallest guy goes and gets the ball. It's like with a rebound.
Right.
So, yeah, I was so frustrated with just everything. The right side, because there's nothing Parker can do. Mm-hmm. If we do the opposite with our corners, if you notice, Parker's the opposite from what Kirk is with the quarterbacks, right?
Can we put a free safety in there that can help cover the right side when they need an extra body in there?
Well, that's something that Parker doesn't do, right? Parker expects you to do your job. Mm-hmm. That's all he cares about. Mm-hmm. So he's not going to adjust his scheme like that because he expects all 11 guys to do their job.
Right. But until Iowa proves that they can cover that side of the field, they're going to keep throwing that way. So I say you got to come up with a plan to counter that because otherwise we're going to keep getting burned over there.
I mean, I agree with you, but I'm just telling you that's not Parker's way.
Yeah. The good news is Castro's supposed to be playing next week, so
he will be. It was
Yeah.
his ankle, I think.
Yeah, his ankle. He almost could have gone today, but they chose not to do it.
I think they probably thought the same thing I did.
What's that?
I was getting so many freaking messages because I thought they didn't need Castro. That quarterback has been awful all year. I watched him against Austin.
He wasn't that great last night. He could have had 2 first quarter picks.
No. But you're right. But the second half, he was flawless. He was hitting his receivers like on those corner routes. Third and 20.
By that time, the defense was probably exhausted because they hadn't stopped anything all night long.
Well, I'm just saying he was hitting his target, right? He wasn't hitting his target all year. Last night, he didn't miss his target in the second half. It was insane. He didn't throw a bad ball in the second half.
No, he didn't. He didn't. We made him look like a Heisman Trophy candidate.
Yeah.
You know? And I think it's because we didn't seem to get a lot of pressure on him, and when we did, he easily ran away from it.
Well, that's another thing. When they did send Nick Jackson, it was actually kind of working, right? Mm-hmm. But then we don't do that very often. I'm like, just keep sending him, and we got to do something, right?
Right.
But Parker just will not do that. He just sits back, and sitting back with not having the right corner is going to kill you.
Right.
I mean, Entringer did pretty good at cash. He was doing his side. They just kept attacking Hall, and then they attacked Nestor. I mean, legit all game long. And if Nestor, then if Nestor wasn't up on him, they would do that quick pass to Marsh, and Nestor is not quick enough in the open field.
Yeah.
Like he is just not.
And you know, even the Ohio State game with their athletes, I don't recall seeing Iowa get. I mean, we were flat-footed last night. I mean, we could not wrap up, and then their guy was their quarterback mostly. I mean, we couldn't get our hands on him.
Yeah, it was awful. He was bobbing, weaving, juking. It was the worst performance I have seen since 2019 against Purdue.
Mm-hmm.
That was just awful. I've never seen it.
I just think what we saw unfold on our eyes early on, I think a lot of fans were like, well, crap, but we've seen this act before. We'll get this fixed and we'll turn it around and come back and win the game. But each time it kept going and kept going and kept going, and it's just like, this is getting obvious that we're not going to win this game, you know? And then when we got close and got within 3 points or 4 points, I can't remember which.
4. It was 4.
4, yeah. I thought, we've got a chance. We have a chance. And then...
I mean, we did. The offense found a way. Problem was the defense
couldn't stop the other offense.
The defense didn't play one good half. That was the problem. The offense played one good half.
Yeah.
But the defense
by the time the second half rolled around, they were gassed. You know, I mean, we got young guys out there that really weren't ready to see that level of action. And it's, injury related that we had to get those guys in there. And then offensively in the first half, when we have like 6 minutes time of possession or something, it was not good. I mean,
it was embarrassing stats in the first half. Those were the most embarrassing stats ever.
And
I think we had total 17 yards total in the first half.
And the defense didn't help themselves out by giving up long drives, and they were holding them to 3. And again, the Schulte dropped interception and the 2 kick returns from Weechin, that either one, I mean, we're talking this close from going to the house, and it could have changed the complexion.
Oh, you never know. You never know. So let's Jared's asking an awful lot of questions and put a lot of comments up here. Let's address some of those before we get too far behind on him. So Jared says, okay, so no more talk about college football playoffs. Okay. Looking forward, Iowa can still play for a 9-win regular season to potentially win a 10th with a bowl win. Those are true statements, Jared. I don't think Iowa's going to get that. I don't think they're going to win 9 games in the regular season. I've really changed my mind right now.
I mean, even before the Michigan State game, even though I think we all felt pretty confident that we could win all of those games, we also said, look, there's nobody on the schedule we can't beat, but then again,
we can be beat by all of them.
Yeah, I mean, there's landmines there as well. So
yeah. So the one thing when you're picking teams at the beginning of the year, picking games, you never know how the transfer portal and new coaches are going to affect team play. I mean, we're seeing what a new coach did for Indiana, and I have no idea how many of them are holdovers and how many are transfers in. But, this guy has made an amazing adjustment on Indiana's team and turned their fortunes around.
Iowa would be undefeated with their schedule, though, too.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
They have the 110th rated schedule.
Okay.
I mean, we're not. I mean, now Indiana's they're hitting their they could easily lose their next 4.
Okay.
So
I will give you that. All right.
They're hitting the meat of their schedule now.
Yeah.
So
here it comes.
To answer your question about the transfer portal, they got the best quarterback in the transfer portal, the second best, Will Rogers, and then Rotes. He played at Ohio, and he was a stud at Ohio.
Did they have to pay him $1 million to come too?
I don't know if they paid him. I don't know if they paid him at all. He came from Ohio. It's just he was the quarterback that beat Iowa State last year, if you remember that at Ohio. He was always really good at Ohio, so he just needed to move up, and he's really good. That's what he's doing now.
Okay,
but they haven't played anybody. Kind of like Nebraska's record's fake, right? Yeah. None of those teams have played anybody, so.
This is the point of the season where we said that Nebraska is going to start losing some games. I think I said 7 or 8 win season would be the ceiling for them at the beginning of the year.
I think we all said that. And now after the ass whooping by Indiana, I mean, they need UCLA to get their 6th win.
Yeah,
They got to beat UCLA, or they'll end up 5-7 again.
Yeah, I believe UCLA comes next week to Nebraska.
I think so.
Next week after?
That Nebraska plays Ohio State this week.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Okay, there's a loss. Okay, at least we hope so. No, like I said, we all said that 7 or 8 wins possible, but they've already lost 2 games that I put on their record. Yeah, so their winning record. So let's go this. You started to allude to it that you weren't happy about Cade, and Jared wants to know if it's time for a QB change. But you're also, I know you don't want to see Sully out there. So are you thinking that you'd love to see Marco out there, and can Marco run the option per Jared's question?
I mean, come on, you guys know I wanted Marco to be in the year. So I want Sullivan because that's what the world wants to see. I talked with Suter about this today. Because he wants Marco too, right? But we need the world to see Sullivan, right? He's got to prove his worth to the media who's been bragging him up. So this is what I was telling Suter is I want Sullivan to play, and if he does well, then okay, I was wrong, right? But if he does what I think he's going to do and what he's been doing so far, then play Marco, right? Marco's going to be the starter next year if he takes over the starting job this year. So let both those two, one of those two are going to be the starter. If Marco doesn't even get a look, he's going to transfer. Even though I know that they're going to work hard to try to keep Marco. There's certain people in that clubhouse that want Marco. They see everything that I see. That's why I was so happy.
Okay.
I mean, I learned a lot last week. Remember, that's why I wanted to talk about on the pod, but I wasn't able to get back in time for it.
Right. I mean, you can definitely talk a little bit more about that and go into a little bit more depth because you have my interest peaked right there.
But I can't. There's some I can't. This is the only thing I'm going to really say is I felt happy. I was so ecstatic talking with people there, and I know there's a lot of donors. There's a lot of people within the program who see. And some people told me they think Kirk sees it too, but I know other people are going to be like, Kirk don't know quarterback. So, but anyway, there are people that say that Kirk would like to give Marco a shot as well, like over Sullivan. It's kind of like that. But in Kirk's case, it could just be that Marco's been there the whole time, and Kirk, you know how he is loyal. I mean, that could be part of it. But I do know that they're going to try really hard to keep Marco there. So which leads me to I want Sullivan now. If Cade doesn't get any better, you know what? You paid Cade, let him start the game. If he goes 2 for 10, I mean, we're beyond that right now, right? If he starts off the way he did with open receivers, I'm not talking about when he's throwing receivers that couldn't get open. Against Washington, I'll be honest, Seth Anderson and Lachey were the only two that could really get open. Right. I know Howard had that nice catch over the middle for the touchdown, but throughout the game, watching the receivers, Vanderzee, he couldn't get off his guy like he did Saturday night. So Seth Anderson was open a lot, but he just couldn't get him the ball. And Lachey was open, and I'm not even sure if we threw it to him 5 times that game. So no, but if he starts off like he did last night, now that they have their 3rd loss, realistically, we're looking to go visit Paul in the bowl game right now. That's what we're all looking to go see Paul. So, yeah.
Realistically, I don't think so. I think realistically, we're looking more to going to Detroit or something like that.
No. If we can get to 8 or 9 wins, Iowa will be back in Tampa. And I don't know. So I actually have kind of a
I don't see 8 wins on the schedule left out of 5 games.
Who do you think can beat them?
Well, if you read my thing this morning,
I did.
Okay,
I read it.
All right, and okay. So as I said, I feel like we've got Northwestern. We can win that one.
I feel okay.
But Wisconsin is our next game after that, and Wisconsin's looking like the Wisconsin of old, and we could never beat the old Wisconsin.
They're not looking that good. They're not the Wisconsin of old. Come on. But anyway, and the Wisconsin game's at home.
Yeah, right. True.
You remember 2009? I mean, 2019? No, it was 2017. What happened after we destroyed Ohio State? What did we do the very next week?
We laid an egg against Wisconsin.
That's what happened this time. We just came off a big win over Washington. And then we laid an egg at Michigan State. They're going to get the horses back. They're going to get their wheels back.
Okay. And I also pointed that out in my little dissertation this morning that we seem to follow a pattern.
This is just a classic Kirk Voss that he just doesn't know how to get his team motivated.
Yeah. And then I put down that UCLA, I mean, that's a game that I think we most surely should win. On paper, we're better than they are, but they're going to Rutgers and using some offense. You know, they were able to move the ball and score on Rutgers. You know, but apparently their defense isn't great, or Rutgers' offense is just that good too. No. So because it was a 35-32 win, I believe, for UCLA. So that kind of scares me a little bit that they could put up some points.
Where was that game played?
The Rutgers.
It was at Rutgers.
Okay. Well, okay.
But
so that kind of scared me a little bit. Let me go through this real quick, and then Maryland. The fact that they were able to come back and get a win over USC, crap. You know, USC is supposed to be one of those programs that was supposed to be vying for a national title, playoffs, and everything. And now
who else did that, Dean?
They're 3-4.
Who? Well, yeah, they're in the Big Ten. They're not in the Pac-12.
Right.
Who else did that? Do you remember Minnesota doing that very same thing to USC? Do you remember what
Yes.
Iowa did to Minnesota? Like, we
Yeah.
can't go through this like this. You can't, like, none of this makes sense because every game is different. And what we saw in the Michigan State game was zero. Like, it's like they thought they were just going to roll in and hammer Michigan State like I thought. It's like the team can't believe that. Otherwise, we're going to see what we saw.
Yeah.
That's why you can't go through like what you're doing with game by game. We can't do that because Washington beat Michigan, right? And then we beat Washington. We hammered Minnesota. They beat USC. And you're still trying to use USC as a gauge of anything. When
I guess I'm wrong. Okay, I'm wrong. No. USC is not the team that we thought they were at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, after they beat LSU. Isn't that just a weird one? They beat LSU, and they can't beat anybody in the Big Ten.
You know, the other thing, to go back to Michigan State a little bit here, and I brought this up before you got on here, Coach. They're not as bad as their record indicated. You know, if most other teams in the country played Ohio State and Oregon back-to-back weeks, you know, you're going to have a couple bad losses on your record.
And Paul, I got that exact. The funny part that you say that, I literally got a message from somebody really important that said that exact thing, because I was cocky in this game.
Yeah.
Because of the Boston College game. But I got a message today telling me how wrong I was from a very important person that said exactly what you said. You can't, like, apparently, I don't remember any of this, but apparently Ohio State game was pretty close through most of it, kind of like Iowa. But Michigan State was able to move the ball, unlike Iowa.
Right.
And the same thing with Oregon. Like, it wasn't until later when both those teams, I guess, took over the game, right? They just outmatched them with talent. Where they were, when Iowa played Ohio State, the defense was there, but the offense was the offense. And apparently Michigan State was able to do stuff against both those teams with their offense.
Right.
Before it was a blowout. So with what you're saying, just want you to know there's people within Iowa who agree 100% with you.
Yeah, and then on top of that, and I had mentioned this to Dean earlier too, that it was Michigan State's homecoming at night against, you know, and a team that was coming off a bye week that they had some of their better players actually get healthy and get back in the lineup, whereas we came in a little bit beat up with missing Castro and then Entringer going down and us being deficient at that corner position. So it was a perfect storm in a sense. I wouldn't overreact to losing this game and thinking that we just lost to Florida State.
And that's how the program feels right now. I mean, what you just said, Paul, is exactly in a message that I got, saying how I was overconfident when it went through what you just said. It's like he was waiting for the game before he tried to prove me wrong. Because he said everything you just said, why I was overconfident. And he turned out to be right, but he just said it after the game and not before the game.
Okay. All right. Hink says, let's be honest, the season is over. What we are playing for now, 8-4 in a bowl game, that means nothing. He's so over it.
I mean, he's not wrong, but
I very much
he's not wrong on any of it, but I look forward to bowl games no matter who we play. It's an extra game. I get to watch my team play.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, the Hawkeyes get to play one more game. They're not sitting at home watching the bowl season on TV.
And they get to practice.
They get the extra practices in.
We're not a team that is going to bring in 15 experienced guys from the portal. We might bring in a couple or whatever, but we are a build your roster from within team. And so getting to a bowl game for us is incredibly important.
Yeah. Those extra practices are important.
And it's all part of that development cycle for the younger guys.
Defense. Tink says the defense sucks. It did last night.
Can't
Okay,
argue. Yeah, can't argue.
Who's the RC? What's the RC?
Right corner.
Oh, right corner. Oh, yeah, there's no doubt about that. I think that's going to get picked on until we can stop them on that side of the field.
Again,
Cave sucks. I will go along with that. I'm not going to argue.
I would still go back to, again, I'm not trying to, yes, I'm the homer, call it what it is. Schulte catches the interception that hits him in the 3 and the 0.
Well, I mean, I should have after that moment, like I should have been like, oh, that's just not going to be our night, right?
Yeah.
Because he legit saw the ball and it legit went right here, right? That's just one of those that they don't drop on Iowa. That's why we have so many interceptions, is they don't drop those picks.
Right.
And when they do, it's usually a bad day. And my God.
Instead of us getting a short field and probably at minimum a field goal out of that, right? And just keeping the game where we wanted it. He drops the pick. They go on to get their second field goal of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's 6-0, but we're still in it. But Michigan State is moving the ball effectively, and we are not. And so we're literally going 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. The defense was out there for 10 plays, 12 plays, 15 plays. Yeah, they're only giving up 3, but that adds up.
Mm-hmm.
Hank, if you weren't here in the beginning, that's what I was talking about, or at least when I got in here.
Yes.
That drove me nuts because it was working. When they would send Jackson, like it was literally working. But yeah, I wish we'd have blitzed more.
I could see Outback Bowl, Oklahoma.
I think Oklahoma's got to win a few more because they don't have a quarterback. Like they're in trouble. I don't know if you saw them in the last game against South Carolina.
They lost pretty easily.
Oklahoma's got to work on getting bowl eligible. You have a true
What's their record? You're not bowl eligible yet either. What's their record?
Who?
Oklahoma.
4-3 or 3-4.
Because we're 4-3, and if they're 4-3, we both still have work to do.
Yeah.
Okay. So talk to me when we get to 6 wins about bowls.
Well, they're gonna go right by 6.
Yeah.
Well, I hope they do. I honestly hope. I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong. That we somehow find a way to win the rest of our games. If they can come back, okay. Have you guys heard about a possible Big Ten versus SEC non-conference game?
I've heard about
Yes,
it.
I have heard that.
Yep.
I've heard that. And if that happens, you can kiss the Iowa State game goodbye because Iowa won't put 2 tough non-conference games on their schedule.
It just depends on if they have a choice.
Right.
If every Big Ten team does it, then they'll have to do it.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, Iowa's no different than any other team in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Some teams like Alabama actually play Mercer and Georgia State. There's teams and they only have 8. They only have 8 conference games where the Big Ten has 9.
Yeah.
Right?
So maybe the SEC should concentrate on adding a 9th conference game rather than trying to align themselves with the Big Ten, because all they're trying to do is give the Big Ten one more tough game each to knock us out of playoff contention. That's all they really want.
Well, I think what they're trying to do actually is form an alliance so that they can. It's a power grab for the 2 conferences.
Yeah. Right now, the SEC only has 16 teams to Big Ten 18. So 2 teams in the Big Ten wouldn't play, obviously, that year if they did it. But I don't.
Yeah.
Hink is right. Why are we waiting till the end of the game to do any blitzing?
We didn't wait until the end. But I will say this. If you've got a guy who you already don't trust in coverage, you start sending blitzes, Now you're asking that guy to, cover in man, and I mean, we saw what happened when in those situations. So you live by the blitz, you die by the blitz.
Yeah.
Too.
He just fired the OC. Is that the Oklahoma?
It must be the Oklahoma because that's what we were talking about. That's good if they did because he's awful. Even though they don't have a quarterback, he's awful.
Michigan doesn't have a quarterback either, which is nice. I love seeing them struggle.
Who?
Michigan.
Oh yeah, for real. To answer Jared's question, they only played 8 Big Ten teams back then.
Yeah.
Right. They had 4 non-conference when they did that.
Mm-hmm. Plus, so Iowa State wasn't a very good team in those days.
Yeah. They would play Iowa State and then another. They played Arizona State when they were ranked and Arizona when they were ranked, right?
Mm-hmm. I don't think those games were scheduled when they were ranked, but yeah.
Yeah. No, and that's what they did. They usually played 2 Power 5 teams.
Yeah.
Not known as Power 5 teams in those days, and then 2 lesser teams.
They'd play usually like a MAC team and like an FCS team like in Northern Iowa.
Yeah.
That was kind of the formula.
Along with Iowa State and then another Power 5 team of their choosing.
Yeah, they just started the 9. Maybe it's been a decade or a little longer that they started the 9 conference games. It may not even been a decade.
I don't think it's been that long even.
You're probably right. I don't remember the exact.
I think it was right about the time we added Maryland and Rutgers.
You might be right. Yeah.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah. And remember that weird game against Pittsburgh. If you're talking about the comeback win, yes, do remember that one.
The James Vanderburg game. I love that game. I do. I love that game. It just showed what Iowa could do if they would just run more up-tempo stuff. Because you get your quarterback in rhythm. Like Vanderburg got in rhythm. That comeback was amazing.
Hank thinks we should let the backups run the show going forward. So is that saying that we're giving up on the season and we don't care if we win or lose?
To me, it does.
In a way, but that's...
I'm going to tell you what right now. Kirk is still chasing that record, and I think he wants it. He can still get it if we win out and win a bowl game.
But this goes back to what I said when you first asked me the question. Mm-hmm. I think you start with Cade and just see how the game goes. Mm-hmm. And then if he's really being bad, then literally do what who's the head coach at Louisville now? He was the head coach of Purdue when they used 3 quarterbacks. Yes, thank you. Do what Brom did. Use 3 quarterbacks. I mean, the world has to see Sullivan, so I get that, to help Marco for next year, right? If they're really not going to let Marco out of Iowa City, like people are going to do everything they can to keep him in Iowa City, we got to let him play this year. We got to let him know that that's real. Because I know he's hearing the same stuff I am. People are talking to him all the time, telling him that don't worry, it's going to be your turn, blah, blah, blah. But I think I do think we use Sullivan more. Let him throw the ball a little bit, let everybody see, and then let Marco do it. Granted, but if Cade's off or if Cade's on, then I don't think you do any of that. Except
what I would have liked to have seen last night for a couple of plays is Weechin at the quarterback position. And if the entire defense is going to flow with KJ, then, you get
do some wildcat with Weechin.
Yeah. Because like I said, if 11 guys are going to flow that hard at KJ,
that's where the play calling comes in. And this goes against what Dean was saying, or it might go with what Dean said last week, is remember we talked about how he's not going to be able to wait until the second half with his adjustments. He needed to adjust on the 3rd drive this time.
Correct.
Like watching how Michigan State's doing what Michigan State is doing, right?
Yeah.
Then he goes into halftime. What happens? We come out, we do all the stuff he should have adjusted to in the first half, and they go score a touchdown. Then the very next drive, they go score a touchdown, right? So he knew what he needed to adjust to, but he still didn't do it until halftime. Even though the defense couldn't stop him, Yeah, they kept holding the field goal. It was only 12-0 at half. I mean, I agreed with it, right?
Right.
But you knew what you had to do. I was begging. When you see all 11 guys just go, did you see the linebackers for Michigan State? I mean, good Lord, it was silly.
Yeah.
This is another thing where we're going to blame the O-lineman. People who aren't really watching the game are going to blame the O-lineman when they have 6 guys blocking 8 or 9. Legit, they sent the linebackers right at KJ.
Right.
I
mean, they weren't even waiting to see what happened. It was literally, as soon as the ball was snapped, they were flowing towards KJ, period.
Yeah, everything. That bootleg they finally ran in the third quarter was so wide open, right? Cade had nobody around him, but he still couldn't complete it. And that's my point there is Cade can't throw the ball on the run. He can't. I don't know what's happened to him. He is not the same. Even we could talk about everybody around him. Those are plays that we can't talk about the talent he had at Michigan, right? Because even having all that talent around him, when you have plays like that where there's nobody around you and your receiver's wide open, that's no different than being at Michigan, right? The receiver's wide open, you aren't being pressured, and you're still missing it. Like there's something wrong with Cade right now.
It's mental. It's mental.
It is. It's like a kicker. You guys, we all know, like kickers are just bananas in the brain. And once something goes off, they can't kick because it's all mental. Kicking is all mental, right?
Yeah.
There's something in Cade mentally.
But he did the touchdown pass to Vander Zee was perfect. I mean, you couldn't have been throwing any better, right? And then at the end of the game, it's unfortunate that dude's foot happened to just step out of bounds because that was another perfectly placed and a hell of a catch. Whether or not that he was eligible to catch it, great throw, great catch. Just we needed the field to be 4 inches wider.
Well, I understand that part, but he waited. Like that was a cover 2 beater all the way right down the sideline. He could have drilled it between the safety and corner. Did you see? Like he was wide open for like 20 yards, but Cade threw it deep so the safety could get there, and it even allowed. It was Gill that made the catch, right? It even allowed Gill to step out of bounds. Like if the read should have been you hit that 3rd or 5th step, whatever he had, 3 or 5 step drop. He should have saw it and gunned it right to him because there was nobody around him.
Yeah. So, I still think it's a stupid rule. If you step out of bounds, you're not eligible to catch the ball.
Oh, Dean, don't say that. Because, I mean, we just had a 12-man on the field coach. You start putting those things, you'll have somebody send somebody out from the sideline. Some coach would come up a way to get that rule, just like the 12-men on the field rule.
Oh, yeah. Well, they've changed that now. They're going to put the time back on the clock from here on out. Okay.
I'd like I could see maybe an adjustment to the rule where, like both feet have to go out of bounds or something like that, because just stepping on the out of bounds line probably shouldn't negate your eligibility to be a pass catcher.
Okay, let's talk about this controversial one brought up by Hawkeye 2017. I've given up on Kirk. It's harder and harder to back him. How many rebuilding years does he need to be consistently competitive, bad against Ohio State and Michigan State? I'm as much as I love what Kirk has done for this program, I am probably starting to side with the people who think we might be time for a regimen change in our program. And I said it, and I'm probably going to take some heat for it because I know everybody listening and watching are probably Kirk, loyalists and everything, and we'll stay with Kirk until the day he dies. But I'm slowly switching over to the other side, guys.
Boy, I sure hate winning 8, 9, 10 games a year. It's just, I hate it so damn much, guys. I hate annual bowl trips to Florida and California, and it's so damn annoying I mean, why can't we be Nebraska? Change coaches every 3 years. Haven't been bowling since 2016. Man, this sucks. I hate it.
No, I
Fire
get what you're
everyone.
saying, but what if what if Kirk is in his Joe Paul years and things start to turn like it did on Joe Paul?
Okay.
His team started losing, and
But
he
they have to
basically
start losing
and he was
first.
only forced out because of a scandal.
But he has to start losing first. This is
Okay.
what Paul's talking about. We
Mhm.
can't name a season where Iowa hasn't won 8 games since 2014.
Yeah, I get that. I understand
so
that.
you have to start his winning percentage since 2015 in the last decade
Mhm.
is the best in Iowa history since the 50s, not in history. It's been the best winning percentage of any Iowa coach in a decade since the 50s.
I understand that. But here's some things. Are you tired of going in to play the big boys and getting hammered?
No.
We haven't beat a ranked team since we beat Penn State in 2021.
Okay.
Okay. And Penn State turned out to have a losing record that year.
Okay, so you would rather just go into losing being
No, what I'm
5-7?
trying to say is we're struggling against true ranked teams. We are.
Who doesn't? I mean, I think we're not one of those. Right? We're not Michigan, we're not Ohio State, we're not Oregon, we're not Texas, we aren't Georgia, we're not Alabama. And
But don't you want to be? Trust me. Do you want to be?
Kirk could
Answer
retire.
that question honestly. Do you want to be a Georgia or an Alabama?
Yeah, but it's not going to happen.
Right.
And firing coaches aren't going to make it happen. When in Iowa history has Iowa been Georgia or Alabama? Where is this money going to come from?
Kirk could retire at the end of the year. We could get Nick Saban out of retirement.
Yeah. But here we go. Kirk's under contract until 2029.
Yep.
Okay. And with the upcoming Big Ten schedules the way they are, and with Iowa State making a resurgence, I have a hard time like next season, 6 wins maximum. I see if we can get there, 6 wins.
You know, let's.
All right.
Let's
Okay. Now, hear me out. Hear me out before everybody jumps all over me. We may get to only 6 wins this year, and we could go 6-6 in regular season. Does that change anybody's mind who's defending Kirk? And then next year we go 6-6. Does that change anybody's mind?
If the season absolutely collapses and we go 6-6, let's revisit the conversation.
Yeah, then that means we're actually losing. Instead of predicting these games that we're losing, let's wait until they actually happen.
All right. I just tried to give you a scenario where you guys' minds are at.
A year ago, after Penn State game, everybody said Iowa wasn't going to win another game. Oh, they're done. And they won without a quarterback. They won 10 games. And they should have won 11.
Yeah. Okay. All right, let's go. Let's move on to some of these questions and get off my high horse right now.
Outside of 2015, tell me the season that Iowa didn't drop a Big Ten game to somebody that most people think we should have beaten on paper.
Right.
Minnesota last year.
Well, there you go.
We actually beat them on the field, but we didn't get the refs to see it that way.
Right.
But in 2020, it was Northwestern, and they ended up going to the Big Ten championship game. 2021, they lost to Nebraska. No, was it
Purdue?
2022 was Nebraska. 2021, Purdue. So, like every year, they do have this Michigan State type game against somebody that we think. But like at Paul and my buddy within the university, they pointed out that Michigan State is better than what their record is, right? He went through the Boston College thing. Everything Paul said is spot on, and they played it. So maybe we didn't really run into a bad Michigan State game. They may go on a winning streak after this.
They could.
We'll find out.
And I hope they beat Michigan.
I tell you what, if they play as well against Michigan as they played against us, they'll beat them.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah. Okay, so we
Because
gave
you
them
know
a warm
what?
up.
All they're going to have to do is do exactly what they did to Iowa.
Yeah.
Shut down the running game, right?
Yeah. Okay, I want to apologize to Hink because he was still on the Cade comment, and so maybe I should read that one for him because I got on this Kirk tangent. Okay, yeah, every time he throws, he's either short armed or behind the receiver. I have noticed that we have gone away from the naked bootleg.
He was just agreeing with me. That's when we
Yeah.
were talking about the bootleg.
Yeah.
But if we go back earlier in the comments, somebody asked, "Why did we wait until the end to blitz?" The better question is, why did we wait until the end to throw the ball beyond 10 yards?
Yeah.
They needed
Okay.
to
Hawkeye 2017 says that it's his footwork is bad. What about the laces deal? Do you think he's having trouble because he's trying to throw with laces now?
I mean, he was inaccurate without them, and he's inaccurate with them. I mean, I don't know, right?
He did.
Now
get
I say
more
he's
accurate.
inaccurate. What'd you say?
He did get more accurate in the second half.
You know, 100%.
Yeah.
But also, there were times in the second half where we weren't in 3rd and 12 trying to complete passes, right? We were throwing on first down. It was just
that was one of the adjustments that I felt we needed. I mean, I even said it live. I got so mad. Every time on first down, we're running KJ. And then on the, I want to say it was either 3rd and, did we go for it on 4th down? I don't remember. It was either 3rd and 2 or something, and we gave KJ, and he lost a yard. I'm like,
I think it was 4th down.
knew.
I think it was 4th down.
Everybody knew the ball was going. A bootleg would have been, even with freaking K, he runs for that first down.
right.
The whole defense went with KJ.
I know. And you could see it. You could see it when Michigan State was lining up. They were lining up to stop them right up the middle there, and it's just like, okay, K, do something different. You can see they're coming for you.
I saw at least 2 times last night too where Cade checked to a run.
No, you're
right
right.
into the heart of the defense, and you could see it because I don't remember if he said kill, or I think that's what he said. I think he said kill. So there was a different play called, and he decided, no, I think we're just going to run right into the teeth of the defense.
No, you're 100% accurate because I said it live as well. There was one particular I remember where he audible to a run to the left,
yes,
and they lost a yard. I'm like, when you audible, you should at least get positive yards because you're seeing something that's there.
Mm-hmm.
He audible to a run to the left, and they lost a yard. So, yeah, I know you're right. There's some
maybe
of
they're
that.
disguising what they're doing on him. Okay, Hink says it's starting to turn into Fran fatigue, like it's basketball, and we need some young blood. Okay, Kelvin says, when has Kirk had a rebuilding year? Idiots. I don't appreciate being called an idiot.
2012.
Ask the question, Kelvin, but don't add the word idiots, please.
2012, I think, is the last time.
Let Kelvin be Kelvin.
Sure.
I seem to accept it more from Kelvin than I do other people. I don't know why. He's a good guy. He's a good guy.
2012, like what Paul's trying to say, is the last one that I can remember.
Mm-hmm.
2014 was not a rebuilding. They just had a bad year because they didn't know what quarterback. It was just a weird year. I think they ended in 7-6, right?
Yeah. Just to answer this question, we will have a rebuilding year next year because we lose just about everybody on offense and defense. Not everybody, but we lose a good portion of the team.
Almost the whole offensive line can come back.
I'm not agreeing with that. I think only 1 or 2 can.
No, that's wrong.
Okay, I'm gonna go back and look. We'll discuss it later.
Yes, we'll discuss it later.
The receivers will definitely be back.
Yeah, either way, Hink says either way, if we lose, he's not getting fired. Well, of course not. He's going to go out on his own terms when he decides.
I expect Moulton.
If we can get him 9 regular season win and a 10th win in the bowl season, I believe he's done after this year. He will have achieved his goal.
Possibly.
I mean, if he wants to. I mean, I'm not sure that's. true because he might see the future.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
we're over an hour in.
Or
Should we
every 9 years
transition to picks?
weren't winning. Okay. Next season's going to be a gauntlet. Yeah, I think most people have already looked ahead and know that. Nobody's firing Kirk. We know that too.
Hey, go back to Kelvin. Oh, never mind. You're still going down.
Okay.
Kelvin's right.
You go to. I can go back up.
To Colby's the only lineman that can't come back.
Sit down further.
It's close to it's after our comments on the Jared, I love you, buddy. Nate Stanley could hit a 3rd and long. God dang right he could.
That's right.
3rd and 22 against Iowa State, baby, in 2019.
Yeah, they were. You know, they were actually talking about that on Lysicle's show last night.
He also had the big one against Nebraska. They got us into field goal range at Nebraska in 2019.
Guys, what is it about Iowa's offense that held him back here? I mean, I'm sorry, not Nate. I'm sorry, I got the wrong quarterback.
The Petrus?
Yeah.
I mean, if you ever want to go into it, I can explain it to you.
Yeah.
Petrus is exactly who I thought he was. We discussed this 2 years ago on the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
If you want me to say a few things, I can say it now.
Go ahead and say it. We got a few minutes, I think.
What's going on with Petrus now is he never looks away from the defense. And that's where he's good. There are quarterbacks who cannot play with their back to the defense. Mm-hmm. Like, for instance, Peyton Manning. He could play with his back to defense because he loved the play action pass, right? Remember, he would literally go into the motion and act like he's giving the ball. Everything looks the same. Mm-hmm. With Petrus, he has to get to the line of scrimmage with at least 15 to 20 seconds. Now he's getting to the line of scrimmage with like 25 seconds on the clock, right?
Yeah.
And the only time he does play action is the RPO for the most part. He's always looking up. He never has to look away and then look back. Not all quarterbacks are created equal. Go ahead.
Also, don't forget, now quarterbacks have coaches in their ears, right? So he's at the line of scrimmage, and up until 15 seconds, that coach can be saying, you know, he can be taking all the guesswork and thinking out of it for him.
Oh,
hey, 15 on the side.
Huh? I was getting to that because that's a part of it too. At Iowa, they make the quarterback think. They did, not now. Last year and before. They make the quarterback make all the adjustments. They make the quarterback think about everything. They're constantly, they have to count. They have to check coverages without motion hardly, right? Without having the time, because under Brian, my biggest critique of Brian is not getting to the line of scrimmage with at least 15 seconds left. He would always wait until it was like 10 seconds and they would get to then they would have to say hike. So, but he is so accurate when he's looking and he sees it. That's why at the Manning camp, remember, I think he was MVP of the Manning camp, wasn't he?
Yes, he was.
It's because all it was 7-on-7 passing drills. He didn't really have to turn around fake. It was all just playing quarterback. He would have excelled in a spread offense, like an air raid style offense like that. He really would have if he wouldn't have came to Iowa. I believe he would have, because what I'm seeing now is like he doesn't make a lot of bad throws. When he sees it and it's there, he is getting it there. And at Iowa, he was constantly being rushed. And he was constantly having to do play action, turn around. That's why in some games, even in an Iowa uniform, do you remember like the Maryland game? Like he had games where he was spot on. I have a feeling that I didn't know it at that time, but I have a feeling that had more to do with the game plan.
Yeah. Like, hey guys, I'm going to run for just a second. Just carry it on like you have been.
Okay. Yes, I'm talking about Petrus, Hawkeye 5. Yes, talking about Spencer. He didn't I have a feeling the reason we had those good games in an Iowa uniform was legit. The game plan fit him that game, right? He just doesn't see it when do you know what I mean? Like when you turn around and then you turn back around and everything is different, you have to be able to see what just happened. And some people can't. Some quarterbacks cannot see what just happened when they turned around because they have a pre-snap read and they're looking at it. Well, when they say hike, obviously everything changes, right? Their coverage. And when you turn your back, you got to be able to turn back and see everything that just happened. Like you got to have that memory of, holy cow, he came up, boom, 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 right? That's the coverage. That's the part that Petrus, I have a feeling his brain just can't pick it up. And that's what we discussed, Paul, was everything about Petrus is between the ears. He has all the God-given talent.
Yeah.
Yeah, his arm talent.
Also, remember now, too, Spencer is in his 5th or 6th year in college at this point, right?
Sorry, guy, I had a family thing to do real quick. Okay.
Because he took a medical red shirt last year, and he was with Iowa. And before, when he started playing, he was a young guy, and young quarterbacks, whatever. And I think he, as part of this whole kind of between the ears thing we're talking about, he started out as a young player, all of the different things that you talked about, what Iowa quarterbacks at that time were required to do. And then he got to take a year off with the shoulder and whatever. And the confidence that I think maybe he kind of lost, well, without him in there, the other quarterbacks that, they didn't fare any better, which is why they were gone. And maybe he got some of his confidence. Maybe it's not me.
I mean, yeah, it's all part of the brain, right? We just discussed kickers and brain. I mean, quarterbacks same way with their accuracy. If they have something twerked in their brain, they're going to be off a little bit. And I mean, I think that's kind of what's going on with Cade right now. There's just something about Cade that's not right now.
Mm-hmm.
So like his cockiness is gone. Like everything he had when he came in is gone.
Yeah. And Jared wants to know, how did he go from Big Ten conference champ at Michigan to just struggling here? Because he doesn't have the same receivers and line around him that he had at Michigan. Those guys are better than anything Iowa put on the field.
He also wasn't trying to return from 2 torn ACLs or whatever, I mean, he was fully healthy. And not that
that too.
That was my point earlier, Dean. It's not about the talent when you see him wide open, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can talk about how his receivers got open, right? Against, he did have more talent around him. But you literally yesterday saw him bootleg with nobody around him, wide open receiver right in front of him, and he threw it a mile behind him. It's not about talent right now with Cade. He had open receivers yesterday that he was missing.
I thought that one that he done that bootleg that he threw wide open, I thought it was a Vanderzee and he threw it in the ground. Am I wrong?
I mean, that might have been another one.
Okay.
Yeah.
The one that I'm thinking that he threw behind him, maybe he scrambled out. Maybe it wasn't a bootleg. Because you're right, I do remember that one as well. So, but your point is, we kind of proved our point there. He had multiple receivers open, right? And he was missing them by him. That speed out, anybody who watched me live, I got so mad because I wouldn't let my high school quarterback not hit that out route. That speed out it was so wide open. It was executed perfectly by the receiver, and Cade throws it a mile in front of him.
Yeah.
Those are the kind of plays that Division I quarterback has to make. Yeah. I wouldn't let my high school quarterback do that.
Yeah. Okay, I got a question for you. Okay, because you brought up on your live, it was right before KJ got loose for the touchdown. You were saying something about, I didn't know we had that in our package or something. I can't remember the name of what it was called. Do you remember what you were talking about?
I don't. I could probably. It was right before KJ's 75-yard run.
Yeah, because you were talking about it, and I thought KJ had just run a 75-yard, or whatever it was, touchdown, and you were talking about it because I think you were a little delayed. So I don't think you realized that the touchdown had already happened, but you were talking about something that happened on the previous play.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Okay.
But
Hawkeye
I
5
know
was there. Maybe he remembers.
maybe I can go back. I can go back and look at it.
Mhm.
But yeah, he was rolling to the right. Even Hawkeye's got a good point. Quarterback, if you don't know, when you're rolling to your opposite hand, you literally have to focus on squaring your shoulders to throw an accurate ball. You're rolling right, it's not so much. It's actually more comfortable, and it's a lot easier for a quarterback to be accurate for a right-hander. Me, I'm left-handed, so when I roll right, I have to focus rolling right and get my shoulders square to follow through.
Isn't it possible to? I hate to interrupt you, Coach.
Here it is.
No, you're fine.
Calvin came up with your what I was asking about.
Yeah.
Oh, Kelvin, how do you remember that? You're right. That's a famous. That play was a famous. Who made it famous was Mike Leach. That's why I got so excited. It was all verts going deep. Yeah, it's
Okay,
an all
that's it
vert
then, yeah.
play. It's something Mike Leach absolutely loved. There was times where there was a famous practice where they legit ran all verts for a whole practice, and the receivers were dying. But that's what he wanted to get in their brain. This was at Texas Tech, and don't say it was in 2008. It wasn't. It was in like 2004. But that was he made famous where all four receivers go deep, right? You have each one going up the seam, and then you have two outside guys going deep, and then your running back will float, in the middle, whichever way. But Kelvin, how do you remember that?
He remembers everything.
Yeah,
I was just going to say,
some of the text messages that he and I go back and forth. I'm amazed at what he remembers.
That's insane that he remembers that.
It is really possible that, Kirk Ferentz and Tim Lester, I know they suck as coaches and Iowa's terrible and we should fire everyone, but maybe, just maybe, they try running some of these bootleg plays in practice and Cade's a little behind on him. He's a little high on him. Maybe he's just not real good at throwing on the move. And maybe that's why we don't see it a whole lot.
Hey, you could be. I mean, that's right. The only thing that what I was discussing is the fact that they were all going at KJ. You got to do something, right? That's why I wanted the bootleg. But you can always do a half roll too, right? To get him stationary. Do a half roll and have him set up and then chuck it as well. But you're 100% right. Obviously, he can't throw the ball very well on the run, and maybe that's why they don't do it. You're 100% right.
Another thing that would have worked excellent that I'm pretty sure Cade or I could do is you run that kind of stretch play action with the boot off of it, but you have like Lachey as the right tight end. Now he delays out to the flat. They make it and just a simple 2-yard pitch and catch that he can take for probably 7-8 yards.
That should be in the playbook as well. And Hank, that interception, I was saying it live, and I kept just kind of rewatching it. It looks like it's on a receiver by Cade's reaction, like he wasn't expecting it. He wasn't expecting that receiver to do that, but he also threw it between two receivers, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what the receivers ran all verts, but I've never seen Iowa do that. So I'm wondering if the receiver was supposed to break out and not run right down the seam from where Cade threw it.
I know, it almost looked like he threw it right to him. Like, here you go. You want it? There it is.
I was just going to say, to Cade's credit, that Martinez was wide open.
Yeah. I think a receiver messed up only because I've never seen Iowa run all verts, right? I was so excited when I saw that play, even though it was picked off. I don't think it was Cade's fault. I think a receiver ran the wrong route.
Mm-hmm. And remember too, every receiver we're running out there, I think, is in like their first year in the program or their first year of game action. One or the other. I mean, we got the Northwestern transfer, First year in the program. Vander Zee is a true freshman.
Other than no, you're 100% right. I don't think any of our receivers have played in a game hardly. Weegan played in games last year, but not very much, right?
Right.
But other than him, you're 100% right. You're spot on. I don't think we really have an experienced wide receiver, which is why
not experienced within the Iowa program until you know. So you know there may be some growing pains there with them and you know the routes and things like that. So it may not be all on Cade, and I think it may be unfair to just. We don't know if a guy ran the right route or the wrong route. We don't know.
Yeah. Well, at the bottom of this, Hink says either way he threw it into triple coverage. That'll wrap up that part. KF's biggest crime is against himself, and it was getting so close that it made common bandwagon fans dream of what could be, but won't even be close under another coach.
I agree. I absolutely agree.
I don't think it's going to even get close with KF, and Brian knows what we're talking about here. Is he and I had a great discussion earlier today on NIL, and Iowa's not getting the NIL money, and they're not going to get the transfer portal people they need in the future, and they're going to get left behind as far as I'm concerned. And I know that Brian's on the bandwagon of the whole, you know, we need to find a way to get the NIL money to our players. And
well, you just went back to Paul and I's point. We have never been Georgia, Alabama, and we're not going to be there unless you pay a head coach $10 million a year. We complain about $7 million a year.
Right.
You know what? We could fire Kirk and bring in another coach. We're going to have even the coach Stoops from Kentucky makes $9 million a year right now. Kirk only makes $7 million. Look at Kentucky, who has never had a winning tradition ever either. They don't even have the tradition Iowa has in football, right? And their coach is making $9 million a year.
Yeah.
And we're complaining about $7 million. So you're going to bring in a coach like Stoops, who hasn't really won consistently. We're going to have to pay him over $9 million a year. I mean, we got to put our critical thinking hat on.
Oh, first of all,
and really think about you can go get Nick Saban, pay him $15 million a year, and he wouldn't be. That's why he got the heck out of Michigan State.
Yeah.
Think about where all the great coaches go. What makes them great? Where do they go? Why would you leave Michigan State for, I don't know, LSU, Alabama? I mean,
we get it.
I think Brian's point is, Iowa isn't going to be a powerhouse.
And I get that. Unfortunately, I don't want to accept that. I want us to be there. Before I die, I want to see us in a national contender for championship. I want us in the playoffs, and I want us to make the finals and actually say Iowa Hawkeyes national champ. We earned it. We played for it. We didn't get voted for it. Like we did in the 50s, we were voted national champs.
You better find the fountain of youth.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter what you do. You can't fire Kirk and then go bring in somebody else and have it all of a sudden flip.
Kirk's not going to get fired, guys. He's going to leave on his own terms. I've already said that.
No. It's about the point of what we're discussing. We don't have a genie in the bottle. If anybody has a genie to give us 3 wishes, I mean, I wish for that exact thing too.
Yeah.
I would just wish for a Rose Bowl victory. God, that would be so cool, right?
Yeah, it would be. Does it count if we beat UCLA in the Rose Bowl in 2 weeks?
I wish. That would be amazing.
Yeah. Okay. Hawkeye 5 says Kirk Ferentz isn't the all and all of college football. Life will go on after him. I assure you it will. And yes, we know that.
Yeah.
Most people right now who are following this show have only lived through Hayden Fry and Kirk Ferentz era. They've never lived through another era of Hawkeye football.
I mean, you're right.
I'm not wrong. You two have never lived before. You guys were born into the Hayden Fry.
I had to think about Hayden's first year. I mean, you're right. That's a long time to have 2 head coaches.
Yeah. I've gone back. I'm old enough that I was around when Evashevsky was coaching football at Iowa.
Oh yeah, is that what Kelvin meant? I did want to say this.
What's that?
I can't pronounce that guy's name you just did.
Evashevsky.
So did he have 4? Did he have 4 losing seasons in the 50s? He said something about.
I think he did early on, and then he turned them into national powerhouses. I believe he got 1 or 2 national championships with that. And in 1960, he got 1 co-national championship with Minnesota. One service voted Iowa, the other service voted Minnesota. But Minnesota beat us that year, so technically Minnesota should have had both.
Right.
I think that's what Calvin's referring to then.
Yeah, Hank's a baby.
No.
I think Hank told us he graduated in the 2000s from high school, like 20-something. 2015 or something. So, yeah, he's only lived through Kirk. I remember he's young, but I can't remember exactly when he said he graduated high school.
Well, Hanky's on here. Hank could tell us. He's only lived one era.
He's a young pup.
So we know that he was born at least around 2000.
2020. Okay, I knew
2020 from high school. Hey, Hank, that makes you 22, 23, because that's when my grandson graduated high school from Hawkeyes.
So, hey, we're an hour and a half in. Can we maybe go on to our picks?
Yeah, we're starting to lose the audience anyway. Okay. All righty. First of all, let's congratulate Paul because he had the best week of all of us. But, Paul, before you get your head too big, you only went 5-3. I went 4-4, and Coach went 3-5. So there's only 3 games total separating Coach and Paul. So I have 11-game lead out over our overall Paul, and 8-game lead over Jason.
So what were the picks?
Okay, here we go. Nebraska,
I know
Indiana.
I Nebraska.
Jason picked Nebraska. You and I picked Indiana. Bama at Tennessee. You picked Tennessee, and Jason and I picked Alabama. We all picked Illinois. We all picked Texas, so we lost that one. We all picked Iowa State. We won that one. We all picked Wisconsin. We won that one. We all picked Iowa. We all lost. We all picked Rutgers. We all lost.
And by the way, for the record, for everybody that wants Kirk fired and everything else, we're still Iowa State's best win on their record. At 4th, I mean, literally, we're.
You want Iowa to go to the playoff? Hey, let's just go join the Big 12.
Right.
Yeah, there you go.
There
you go.
On.
We could probably run through the Big 12 schedule.
Yeah, we would run through Iowa State's schedule, right?
Then we could play Colorado.
And like we said before, if we had Indiana's schedule, we'd probably be undefeated, right? I think Indiana plays Michigan State this week. No, they play Washington.
Yeah.
Indiana plays Washington at Indiana. So Washington has to go all the way past Iowa and into Indiana.
I know.
So we'll see how that game goes.
Yeah, I'd be definitely interested in that game. That could be a high-scoring affair. Last person with the ball wins. I started following Iowa in the 08-09 era. I remember Stanzi, and if you don't love it or leave it, USA number 1, go Hawks.
Yes, but that was at the end of the Orange Bowl.
Yes,
Yep.
yes. I thought it was cool. And it was so cool because Stanzi knew that there was nothing Kirk could do to punish him. That was his last game ever as a Hawkeye.
He went on to the Chiefs.
Yes, and the Jaguars.
And the Jaguars.
Evie had 4 of 9 seasons that were better than 5-4. Hang on. Before we go off, let's just check this out.
Does that Jerry ever come back on? I haven't seen him since the whole Sullivan scandal.
Jerry, he does not like to go on to other podcasts anymore until he's done his own podcast on Right now, he's doing his own podcast right now, recording for tomorrow. Then he'll come back and check ours out. But he doesn't want to be tainted by what other people are saying.
That 09 team was loaded with NFL talent. I mean, if you go back to that, I mean, Stanzi had a few years, and even as a backup, I mean, there's, he had a nice NFL career. Brandon Weger had a nice little NFL career for himself. Thinking who the tight end.
Okay, here we go. I'm going to give you guys real quick.
All three of their tight ends on that team went pro. Tony Moeaki was the one.
Moeaki, yes. And then Pat Anger he led the NFL in tackles one year. And there was Adrian Claiborne, and I mean, the list goes on. So Bins, yeah.
Okay, here. Okay, we're going to go over the record for Coach Evashevsky. Starting in 1952, his records were 2-7, 5-3-1, 5-4, 3-5-1. Then this is where he got hot. 9-1, won the Rose Bowl. 7-1-1, 8-1-1, won the Rose Bowl. In 59, he was 5-4, and in 1960, his last year, he was also 8-1.
There you go.
So the guy, I don't know what it is about Kelvin, but he doesn't forget these things. He knows them.
I know, they just stick in his brain. It's crazy. Like he's supposed to, that sponge is supposed to be getting a little dry, because when we're kids, we just soak everything up, right? Knowledge, everything, and then the brain's supposed to dry up, but not Kelvin's. It's still going.
Yeah.
But
anyway, right. I still have this book, but it's a year old, so it's missing some stats. They don't print a new one anymore. You have to go online and get whatever they send out that week, and it's like 100 and some odd pages long, and I don't want to print it. So I'm gonna miss this little book.
Guys, I
know we want to get off, right?
I am available Tuesday night if we want to go Tuesday this week.
I would prefer Tuesday if we can.
Okay.
That way we stay away from another podcast that I like, and they go live, and we stay away from Kirk, because Kirk also goes live on Wednesday.
Okay. We could do same bat time. Same
bat time, same bat channel.
Okay.
Study up on your Northwesterns. I did invite a Northwestern reporter to join us, but I think she won't do it. Okay. I invited her last year, and she wouldn't do it last year either.
I mean, look at us. She'll be afraid. She ain't gonna join. She's not gonna join a couple fatchies. She's gonna be like, I'm not getting on that podcast. I need Thor on there. I'm not getting on there.
Also, guys, while you're on here, we got a couple of podcast specials coming up. I will be doing later this week a basketball preview show for both men, and then on women's, I've invited Molly Tyback to come on with me, who's agreed. We're going to do a women's preview probably next week. And then I want to do a podcast especially on Doyle's interview with Keith Murphy, and some of the things that he had to say, and some of the things that we were told about him and are turning out not to be true. And I really want to cover that when we can.
Stunned.
What?
Oh, that some of those things weren't true. I'm being sarcastic.
Oh, well.
True.
I mean, that's why I'm not even going to watch it, because I had players literally tell me stuff. Mm-hmm. I know some of the things are true, like about him walking on players' fingers.
Yeah, I'm not going to go on the part about whether or not he was overzealous with players. I just want to deal with the racism part. That's the part that got him fired. The racism.
Yeah, I don't know about that. The only thing I know about that is that Claiborne came out and said he knew better than say anything to me. So
no, and I get that. I get that. He also admits in his interview that he maybe went too far with some players.
Okay.
That he should
Because
recognize
Claiborne said he never
that some
got it.
players you need to treat differently than others. That he realized that you can't coach players in this day and age the way they were coached in the 80s.
Yeah, well, yeah, but Claiborne said that he never experienced one thing of racism, right? He came out and he said they wouldn't do that to me because he wouldn't take it, right? And Claiborne's a big SOB, so
well,
a little different.
Yeah, just to give a little preview, the depositions proved that there was no racism involved, and he was actually dismissed from the lawsuit. But guess who wasn't? Brian.
Yeah.
But players also said that he didn't do anything either. So
yeah, I don't know. It was a bunch of mumble jumble, and I'm kind of mad because looking back on, I think Doyle was made the scapegoat.
I don't think so. I mean, I don't, but I just think he's not going to tell the truth.
Right.
Like, just like when people lie about Brian, he did not call a player the N-word like the player said.
Mm-hmm.
Players came out and said that never happened. When he said that, he called me, he goes, that's only a thing a black player would do. One of the players said that, that player that stepped out of bounds in the bowl game against Tennessee on a kickoff, that player lied his ass off. I actually talked to players. Like, I know some things that they lied about. You know what he did do? He did say to Wadley and another player, are you going to go rob something? Because they had that mask on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the winter mask that we wear in Iowa. He did say that, but then if you're taking that as racism, that means you think only black people rob banks. I guarantee you there's white people that rob banks, right?
Well, the fact that he said it, I think he was just joking. He was. I think it was just a joke. A joke, I would say the same thing.
My grandpa would say that to us. That's my point. Is if you think that's racism, then you think that only black guys rob banks when really white guys do too, right? It's it's both.
I guess I'm not going to get a lot of love on this Doyle thing, but I do want to talk about it and see how people feel about it. I want to get some reaction.
Because you want to believe what Doyle's saying. I'm only believing what the player said.
I watched the interview. Keith Murphy fact-checked him on everything, and he's absolutely correct on everything he said.
Like what?
You just watch it, and Keith Murphy will fact-check it for you as you're going along.
Well, right, but is his fact-checking facts? Like, I'm not.
Yeah, he's using the deposition. He's doing the depositions where you're sworn.
Right, but the players admitted under oath that they never did anything racism. I have the depositions.
Okay.
I read them myself. But like the players admitted that they lied under oath. Mm-hmm. Like legit lied about everything. So
yeah, I know that. Which is to this day I still don't know why we settled since they lied about everything. But anyway,
because Iowa had a lazy when Byrd got hired, the attorney general, she just wanted it over. Right? Mm-hmm. The attorney general before that. See, we got to use critical thinking skills on everything. That new attorney, Byrd, she just didn't want to deal with it. So, right.
Well,
Kirk didn't actually fire him.
Exactly.
They mutually separated after they agreed to a buyout of his contract.
As I say, Doyle walked away wealthy.
Yeah, the walked away a very Byrd. The attorney general before Byrd, when she took office, was fighting it. They weren't going to settle. And then the attorney general, Byrd, came in, and she didn't want any part of it, so she just settled.
And Kirk was pissed.
Yeah, Kirk was pissed. He came out and said, this is bullcrap. Like, I don't want anything to do with this. He didn't want to settle. The attorney general before didn't want to settle. Because they admitted under oath that they lied. Everything is like, anyway, you're going to get me fired. I can't watch it because I don't trust the guy because, like I said, I heard from players what he would do. Mm-hmm. Now, not racism stuff, but like I said, walking on fingers. Like he would do some of the dumbest stuff to motivate players. Walking on fingers and talking smack to them, that's not a motivator.
Why would you walk on the fingers of your defensive players?
That's something that you would do back in Alabama in the 60s, right? Whatever that coach's name was. I can't remember. If you
Oh,
watch,
I know who you're talking
Bear
about.
Bryant?
Oh my God, I watched the movie
Bear
with him.
Bear Bryant.
Yeah,
Like
Bear
if you
Bryant.
watch his documentary, that's the kind of stuff he did, right? Which was dumb. So
Yeah. Well, hey
Bird
guys,
was
this is
behind
probably
the
one of our
gambling.
longer podcasts, but I think it's time to end it and
I want to
move
tell
on.
Kelvin. Hold on, I just want to tell Kelvin he's right. Bird was behind the gambling probe too. That woman is awful. She's just awful. All right, I'm done.
Okay. All right, guys. Thank you for watching and listening. Share this, subscribe while you're on right now. Before you leave, hit the like button right now. Right now, before you leave, hit that like button.
Now.
Yeah,
Right now.
and if you haven't subscribed, get on there and subscribe. I could use more subscribers. Take care.